Madison Mills. If you haven't already downloaded the insanely popular app TikTok, you're running out of time to do so, because as of Sunday, TikTok and WeChat will be banned from US app stores. Joining us to talk about this and more is Bloomberg News' Kurt Wagner. Kurt, thank you so much for joining us yet again this week to talk about TikTok.
Yeah, it's the story that won't go away, so I'm happy to be here.
Just keeps on giving. So first, can you just break down the latest? How does this impact what we're going to see on app stores on Sunday?
Yeah, so last we spoke a few days ago, we were getting close to what seemed like a finalized deal between ByteDance, which owns TikTok, and Oracle, a US company here that was going to kind of be their partner in the US to handle data and security issues. But what happened this morning was that the president said no. In fact, he's going to move forward on Sunday, as you mentioned, and demand that TikTok and WeChat, which are both owned by Chinese companies, be removed from the Apple and Google app stores. That means users aren't going to be able to go in and download them anymore. If you already have the app, it will continue to work, but you won't be able to get updates. So this is a pretty big deal, especially considering, as of yesterday, even it seemed like TikTok and the Treasury Department had come to a bit of an agreement on what a possible deal would look like.
And how does this impact that deal? Does this put any pressure on that timeline, or what does this mean for a potential Oracle deal?
I think it definitely adds pressure. I don't think that anything's going to necessarily get done in the next 48 hours, because there is actually a stipulation here. The president said in TikTok's case, if they can come to some kind of a agreement or some kind of deal that he believes handles all of the privacy issues he's worried about, as long as they can get to that by November the 12th, he's willing to reverse this ban. So while TikTok won't be available in the App Store, there is still a little bit of runway here for the company to figure out some kind of arrangement that would ultimately reverse this.
Do you see that ban happening as we get closer to November 12th and, TikTok users like myself start getting more and more nervous? Do you think that that's a thing that we actually need to worry about?
I don't. Well, I've been wrong quite often about this whole process, because I think you asked me about a month ago, and I think I said, hey, Microsoft is in the lead. This is probably going to get sold to Microsoft, who's no longer even in the picture. So my guess, knowing what we know now about the deal, is that they will get something done by November 12th. It feels like all sides want something to get done. It just doesn't feel like maybe they've been able to strike the right balance just yet. As of yesterday, I was talking to people who were thinking that, an Oracle announcement could have been made yesterday. It could have been made this morning. So there clearly are people who feel that they're very close, which makes me believe that they'll figure something out by November the 12th. But again, I have not been very good at predicting what's going to happen here. This is a very unique situation that I don't think many people have ever seen before. So I ask you not to hold me to that. But if I had to guess, I would say that there will be a deal done before this is a kind of more permanent ban.
Fair enough, Kurt. I'm wondering if you can talk a bit about, last time we spoke, you talked about Larry Ellison's relationship with the president. How does this news that we're hearing today play into that relationship, if at all?
Well, I think that relationship has everything to do with kind of comfort around fixing these security concerns that the president has. Clearly, they have not figured that out just yet. But, this is not something that just two people get to decide. There are a lot of different groups involved here. I mentioned the Treasury Department. This ban was actually issued by the Commerce Department. So even though there is a relationship of sorts between Larry Ellison and the president, which I think will help ultimately probably get a deal done at some point, it's clear here that there's not just two people involved, right? There are a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, including people who are probably much smarter about security than both of those guys, only because they're more in the weeds on it. And so I don't think that this makes a huge issue at the moment, but obviously as we get closer and closer to something that looks like a real permanent ban, that could change.
And it's important to note that we're not just talking about TikTok here, right? We're also talking about WeChat. How will this impact WeChat users specifically?
WeChat is in a bit of a different but similar boat. WeChat, for those who are unfamiliar, incredibly popular messaging app in China. It's a lot less popular here in the US, but there are still, I believe I saw close to 20 million people in the US who use WeChat. It is also being banned from the app stores on Sunday. That means you won't be able to download it from Google or Apple. If you already have the app, you can continue to use it. But one thing that's different about this is that, one, the Commerce Department says you're not going to be able to make financial transactions within the app, which is a big part of how a lot of people use it. They use it to make purchases and do commerce. The other difference is, unlike TikTok, with WeChat, the government has not said, here's a resolution to getting rid of this ban, right? So where in TikTok, as long as they get a deal done by that early November date we were talking about, the ban could be lifted. With WeChat, we don't really have something like that. So at a certain point, when you won't be able to get app updates, or you won't be able to continue to get notifications from the company to upgrade the software, the app will just become, I guess, obsolete at a certain point. Not starting Sunday necessarily, but at some point in the future.
And are there predictions floating around for how people might handle that? Is it something where a competitor like Instagram will really bump up IG Reels, or will users just use a VPN? Has anyone predicted what the kind of user behavior around this change might be?
Well, like I mentioned, it's not a huge app. At least WeChat is not a huge app here in the US. And so I think a lot of people do use it to communicate with friends or family back in China. But really, when you're talking about US communication, it's going to be iMessage, or it's going to be Facebook Messenger, or Instagram, or something like that. So I think there's already a lot of alternatives in place for US communication. When you're talking about TikTok, let's pretend that there is a ban at some point in the future. I think Instagram is probably the most well-positioned to take advantage, because you just mentioned they do have Reels. They have a similar product. A lot of the creators that are on TikTok are already on Instagram, so they're kind of familiar. They have built-up audiences. I think YouTube is another one, of course, right, where a lot of people who are on TikTok now already have audiences on YouTube. So I think those two probably stand to benefit some. But again, I think from a more immediate standpoint, because both of these apps will continue to operate in the very short term, it's not really something that I think has certainly been decided.
And Kurt, a lot of folks are just starting to join in us here on this live stream. So I'm wondering if you can just re-walk me through today's news. Sure. And how it impacts users on TikTok.
Yeah, so the news from today is that the president has ordered that TikTok and WeChat, which are both owned by Chinese companies, to be banned from American app stores starting Sunday. So that means if you are in the US, you won't be able to download TikTok from the App Store. You won't be able to download it from the Google Play Store. And crucially, you won't be able to get updates for an app, even if you already have it on your phone. So you will be able to continue using it, as far as we know, but you won't necessarily be able to update the software, which at a certain point obviously becomes a problem down the line. So that's kind of the news from today, is that starting Sunday, these apps are no longer going to be available in US app stores.
And just again, do you see a world in which we hit that November 12th deadline and suddenly the US just goes dark on TikTok?
You're eventually, one of these predictions is going to be right, I'm sure. No, I think that both sides being the US government, TikTok, I think they want some kind of agreement. I think TikTok obviously very much wants to operate in the US. I think the president realizes that a US version of TikTok is probably a good thing, both for consumers, but also could be good for business, could be good for jobs, right? If you have another big tech company operating out of the US. But clearly they're not able to see eye to eye right now on what a deal like that looks like. The good news is, as you mentioned, November 12th, that's almost 2 months away. So there is a bit of runway here for them to figure that out before there is a more permanent ban. And I believe that they'll probably get something done, but I would have told you they would have got something done by now. So, what do I know? What do I know, Madison?
We're figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
We only have a couple more minutes with you. Real quickly, I just want to ask, do you think November 12th, it's right after another important November date of November 3rd for the election. Do you think there's any correlation there, decision making on that date that relates to the election?
Maybe, perhaps, but it's hard to imagine, if President Trump does not get reelected, for example, Obviously, Joe Biden wouldn't be inaugurated until in January. It's not as if suddenly, he's going to be able to swoop in and save the day. Perhaps it could be something where, depending on the outcome of the election, maybe the president sees this as a kind of a flag that he can plant one way or the other, either for, the beginning of his next term or on his way out. But, at this point, I think it could get done before then. I think there's a realistic possibility that it will get done before then. So I'm not really looking too much at the election date, but as you point out, all of this to be happening right around the same time is certainly something to pay attention to and keep watching.
Kurt, thank you so much for making time to join us today. And for those watching, thanks for taking time to chat with us. Please follow Bloomberg QuickTake wherever you get your news on all social platforms, and have a great Friday. Thank you so much.